You're welcome to the afternoon segment of the Coronavirus Discourse as we continue at the 11th coverage of the lockdown in Lagos, Abuja, Ogun State and other parts of the country. We continue to bring you updates around COVID-19 and its impact on Nigeria. Currently, the confirmed cases in Nigeria are 288 with 7 deaths and 51 recoveries. And we move on to our strategic management discourse this period. With me here is a regular guest now, Mr. John Wesey. We're discussing change management in organizations, nations, and even subnationals. Nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Otto. Thank you once again. It's a privilege.
Yeah, it's the season of where the Christians celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Good Friday to you.
It's Good Friday for everybody.
Yes, yeah.
Good Friday to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we hope that we will use the symbol of today to do further reflection.
Yeah. Very important reflection. So, I mean, yesterday's discussion was very interesting, and the feedback was around the fact of what you raised. The need to have business continuity plans in times of crisis. This pandemic is the first in 100 years, and the impact is unprecedented. So now, there needs to be business continuity plan for businesses that do not even envisage or anticipate this kind of situation. So we need your perspective. How can they set it up at this point, considering the fact that it wasn't initially in the plan?
Okay. Ordinarily, if your business is matured,
yeah,
okay, by now, it is assumed you already have a BCP, a business continuity plan, or a business contingency plan, whichever you want to call it. Yeah. So, like I mentioned yesterday, so by now you've rolled out your business continuity plan, and that's what is taking place now. And there are processes associated with that. And there are calls or protocols for that to be rolled out, so which you will be running by now. So if your enterprise, or if any enterprise hasn't got that, you know, I mean, they'll find a way to survive. It's crisis management. But that's poor. And this should bring some lesson to all of our business leaders, both in the public and in the private sector. You need to have this plan. This season is enough lesson for every business leader. By the way, in the next 5 years, we may be having shocks like this as the climate changes. Already, there is a prediction of heavy rainfall in Lagos this year. So what does that mean to business continuity? What does that mean if there is heavy rain, lots of it? So it then means, and it happens that your staff cannot get to the office, and depending on the location of your office, okay? So what does that mean? Meanwhile, you still must offer services
to your clients and
to your clients and customers. So what does that mean? So this is a clarion call, okay, for enterprises and for business leaders to go and get one done. To go and get one done. And they shouldn't wait until, that's what I think, they shouldn't wait until this event is over, okay, while they're all busy trying to get themselves going. They should start talking to firms that can assist them now.
So what are those kind of firms, particularly for small, medium enterprises? You know, most of them, in terms of costs, they have concerns about costs. They are major, big professional consulting firms. There are also other consulting firms that can even reach out to SMEs that have like 0 to 10, 50 staff.
Trust me, the moment you have up to 10 staff, you should think of having something close to that. The moment you have up to 10 staff, yes, you should have something to fall back on. So you would talk to consultants. There are, apart from the boutique shops, there are independent consultants that can help, you know, you create that. But the truth is, the attitude of our people to such documents or to such plans to help them survive, generally, it's apathetic.
Is it the concerns of cost? Is it the concerns of...
Well, you could put costs and religion and tag both together. Okay. Somebody would tell you, I mean, he's paying his tithes both personal and corporate.
So
Somebody will tell you
immune to
he has
such crisis.
insurance, which is good. You should have insurance, by the way. And if you've been following the news globally, you will see what
Insurance.
companies are going to be paid as a result of this season by their insurers. Okay? So those are the things you do. But it does not, if you want your business to survive beyond you, all right, and you are doing well, so why don't you create a plan? This is very important, and I'm hoping we will all learn out of this.
Yeah.
And like I said, another shock is coming.
Another shock.
Yes, that could disrupt businesses. It's the way the rains have started all over.
The patterns of rainfall globally.
It's an indication
Climate change.
as a result of climate change. So this is things are changing. So business leaders rather should wake up to these realities and begin to talk to appropriate advisors to support them for their business sustainability.
Yeah. And then, businesses that invest in strategic, operational, and financial resilience are best positioned to respond to risk and crisis moments like this.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts around this, and how should business align in this regard?
You see, yesterday we talked about collaboration.
Yes.
As what business leaders must develop expertise in at this thing. So it's the same thing we're talking about. Okay? By the time you're doing your business continuity plan or your business contingency plan, okay, you will have identified the areas where your businesses or your business processes are of high risk. You get the point. Areas of exposure. Your business processes are of high risk. So what do you do this period? What you now do is you now tell yourself what you are going to cover, what your business continuity plan is going to cover. Should you get into a crisis situation as we are in now. So that's what you do. Your partners. It's critical. For example, I was on a webinar before I came to the studio, and you see companies in the US and in Europe, they are rearranging their request for materials from China. Why?
We're strategizing this period.
Their supply chain.
Because
the Chinese, the Chinese know they're not going to get as much orders as they used to get from North America and Europe. Okay? They know that. So they're telling their staff, hold on, don't come back yet, because we're not getting orders as we had thought we envisaged. Now, so what does that require? I told you yesterday, Otto, this also creates opportunities. This also creates opportunities for emerging economies like ours. Okay? So what are we going to do to get people to open factories that can meet these people? That can meet the needs of these countries, so that we still plug ourselves with these, or will companies take things back with the American firms or not American firms and manufacturing entities in Europe and North America? Will they take them? Will they take those entities back to the US or in Europe? I don't know, but as we are talking, all manner of meetings are going on. People are sitting there, just to strategize and make sure that should this kind of a thing happen tomorrow, we are prepared. We are prepared.
Because major mobile and telco firms who have their factories or industries in China have had to, like you said, needs to strategize their plans. Now let's look at brand management in this period. There needs to be visibility. Some people are saying that they're concerned that their brands are not really so visible as expected. How do you advise them in this regard, in terms of making sure that in this time of crisis, they were visible to sustain their operations post-crisis era?
Who is the owner of your brand? Who is the owner of brand Nigeria?
That should be the president.
President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah.
So if he's not in forefront, the same thing for a firm. The owner of the brand, the leadership.
America, brand Nigeria, is the president, man at the helm.
It's the leadership who himself and his team, they are the owners of the brand of any firm. All right. So he or she marshals his team out with the appropriate message for this season to engage all of their stakeholders. To engage all of their stakeholders. That's why if you look at every morning, if you depend on which subscriber, which of the telcos you subscribe to, they're sending you SMS messages. If you want to do anything, they remind you. If you look at the MTN stuff, their signal stuff, you say, stay safe or something like that.
Same with Airtel.
Same with Airtel, as the case may be. Glow and
yeah.
so you know then you come out to the people. So if their staff and co are complaining or their partners are complaining, that's to tell you that something is wrong with their communications team. Something is wrong with their communications team. Who is talking to? Look at Lagos State. Who is the brand owner of Lagos?
That should be the governor.
Jide Sanwo-Olu.
Yeah.
Is he in forefront? Yes, the governor is there. Yeah. So he's talking to you always. He's talking, so you can put a face to the governance. You can put a face to the governance. You ain't going to delegate that out ordinarily. Either you or your 2IC, they are there. Yes. Okay? Let's say one of you suffered like we've seen in England. Yeah. You know, in the UK. The Prime Minister will say, and so you could see that there is a consistency of message, of purpose. Yeah. You get my point? Yeah. And of strategy. So what is the message that is going out today? What are we going to let them know? What will the citizens go home with today? So what will your partners, your customers, your employees, when they open their TVs or they go to your website or to see, what message are we sending? How are we engaging people? So this is critical. So while this thing started, what were the team thinking about? What were the team thinking about? What I mean, the leadership team of every firm. Yeah. What were they thinking about? What are we doing about brand? What are we doing about communication? What are we doing about cooperation? What are we doing about our internal staff? What are we talking to our communities that we probably are giving some freebies before? Okay, how will this affect them? So how do we maintain this service? You need passes from government and all that. So who is in charge of all of this? The CEO. My goodness. You've got to get that done. That's the work of the CEO. He's the owner of the brand.
So the CEOs,
and his executives, absolutely, himself and his team, and his key team to get that done.
And part of the challenge during crisis time, we've seen even during the September 11 disaster, down to other things that have happened, tsunamis in Asia, even the SARS, the pandemic, and plus this that we're seeing today, is the need for effective communication, like you said, consistency, clarity, but coordinated communication.
Absolutely.
Not a break. Like if I say something like today, we've lifted a restriction, I don't want to hear someone say, no, it's not what we said. So how can we ensure from businesses, nations, even to subnationals, this communication is leveled and does not get distorted and creates tension for the receivers?
Again, we must have a coordinated approach, just like you've mentioned. So the person is, who is at the forefront? If you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is a clear example. Who is at the forefront that is talking to all the governors? And the governors are talking, there must be one common thread
of communication.
Not really. When we talk about a common thread, a common message from federal to state to local to the council. What is that common thread that we are talking about? We have thought, up until, is it yesterday or so, we have thought that the common thread from the federal government to the state government to every citizen should be stay at home. Maintain social what? Distancing. But what did we hear? That some governors thought they knew better. Okay? So that message consistency, has it been broken? Yes. So the citizens are, what do we do? What do we do? Here we are, we've been struggling to make sure that our citizens, because of the economic situation we find ourselves even before this crisis, we're struggling economically. So now we are saying, please stay at home in spite of the challenges we may have, but yet look at what has happened. So you've set the citizens in a state of what? Confusion. So that common thread must flow through. We can't find that down. The only luck we have is that at the subnationals, in some states, okay, they still maintain that. They say, okay, like Lagos State, the Ogun State, you get the point, saying, please, we have not done this. While today is a public holiday, and next week, Monday, stay all status quo, please maintain for your health. It's not just about me, about others, so I don't transmit what I ought not to transmit.
Because it's a threat, like we've said. There's a warning, and there is a projection that Africa must do a lot to avoid community transmission.
Absolutely.
We're at the risk of that. So what are the lessons for nations, companies, subnationals, when you see this issue of denials, when you see this issue of not taking governance effectively in ensuring that crises like this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, is effectively mitigated, not leading to an outbreak that affects the population and economy?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the way we've been governed or we've been led to date has been command and control.
When you say command and control, are you saying that
we've not the
since
people
1999 a democratic system that allows
we've made progress? However, the way we have been led, okay, from 1999 to date, of even from independence, all right, especially after the military began to intervene in the scheme of things, is this command and control mentality. The people whom we are serving, whom our leaders are purportedly to be serving, are not primary to them. So because the people is not, the goal is not service, the goal is self-aggrandizement. You know, you get my point. Yeah. The goal is not about serving our people or serving the people. If the goal is serving the people, they will not stay too long in denial. 2 days or 3 days ago, I was telling you that we are in a change management situation. Recall? Yes. Now, to be in denial is not a sin, neither is it a crime. When something hits you, okay, your first response is to be in denial. All right? So that's normal. However, as facts begin to emerge, all right, you begin to look at the facts, the data before you, and you're now interpreting it. You get my point? Yeah. To see, okay, how do I use this information that I have from experts and the one you yourself have read, independently read, to provide leadership for your team? Okay? It doesn't matter. An enterprise or a nation or a state. So this is critical. So to being in denial is not a sin, neither is it a crime. However, how long are you in that state? It's a transitional state. Yeah. How long are you in that transition? Because the length of time at which you stay in that state of denial will determine the kind of response you would take and the speed of the kind of results that you want. You know, these are very critical seasons. So that's why. So being in denial, like I said, is not a crime, neither is it a sin. However, by now, I don't think any of our leaders, especially in the States, should be in denial any longer.
Yeah, of course they should.
Well, I do not. So if they are not in denial, so a common...
It was almost a case, but at least they've accepted.
I don't think any one of them should be. It was our religious leaders who initially, wanted to do this until they began to say, no, until the government rose up, which was quite good. It doesn't matter your faith. This is a pandemic that can wipe out God forbid. Do we want to be picking body bags the way they are picking body bags where in New York, in the US? We don't want to do that. None of us want to do. We can't even cope. We cannot even cope.
Public health systems in Africa are really challenged.
So you can imagine. So it's very important for all of us to our leaders should also make sure that they make us to be a part of, they make us their priority, really. They make the citizens their priority. Not the office, but the responsibilities that are what? Attached to that office. You get the point? Yeah. So whether, that's on the public sector. Yeah. So it then means every public sector leader, all right, how are our citizens being impacted by this development? Yeah. How? So what parts? It doesn't matter the agency that I find myself or the institution that I find myself. So how do I still make sure that our citizens are in constant conversation, as the case may be, you know? So again, it goes back to what? The issue of brand and communication. What is the message we are giving each day? What has changed? So ordinarily, you should bring your crack team together. You are having meetings. You are having meetings. As information is coming, you get my point? What does this information mean? You call the experts. You disperse your sources of information so that you can still reach out to the citizen. The same thing for private enterprises. Yeah. What information are you getting that you are sharing with your staff or with your employees, with your customers? What information are you getting that is making you to engage all of these stakeholders so that they can be at peace? For example, when you hear the US, 6.6 million people lost their jobs, 7.2 in a week, and that kind of a thing. Scary. So people are already in a state of what? Anxiety. So your job is to say, yes, this is happening in the US, but in our firm, we are doing our best to ensure that we can manage it. So the leadership with the HR team, maybe for individual companies, they are dispersing this information. They are dispersing this information. So they are reaching out to staff through their internal platforms, their intranet or whatever, so that staff are getting this. Then what about customers? What about customers? Okay, I can't remember the last time.
Important to every business.
It is true, we've been told to do shutdown, you know. So how many times, I don't know about you, how many times have you received continuous communications from your bank, for example, to tell you that our channels are open, so for whatever transaction you want to do, if you have any issue, please reach support. Support is available to give you this, that kind of a thing. So that's what you need to do, even for, so people feel a sense of belonging. So the anxiety and the panic that should come becomes what? Calms the situation.
And in terms of crisis management, there's a place for evaluation to take key decisions. For example, now we have a 14-day lockdown. Today is day 11, and the reports have it that the president will meet with the task force, the COVID-19 task force, to evaluate the situation and then make a very key decision from next week. I guess businesses will also be meeting at this period to also review the whole situation, anticipating what will happen. So what will you be saying to this presidential task force in terms of evaluation of the situation, and of course for businesses who will be planning this time?
For the presidential task force, the key, I will ask them, what are your metrics? Metrics in terms of the feedback, the honest feedback that they are getting about our citizens. Are they getting poorer?
Feedback on citizens in terms of?
Are they getting poorer?
Distribution of social interventions across the country.
Are the utilities, I've not even got there. Are the utilities working? Yeah. Okay? Our various interventions, in palliatives or intervention, what is the status across the states? How many people have we actually effectively reached? Why have we not been able to meet probably the numbers we are targeted? What are the feedbacks, not criticism, have they received in the course of this, from when the palliatives or the interventions were rolled out during the season? You get my point. This is the time for them to see that every shot at them is not to criticize them, it's feedback so that they can get their acts together. You know, we're already in a depressed economy. You know, and these people, we already had a huge population that were unemployed, plus those that
and your GDP growth,
plus the one that was plus those that were underemployed before.
Yes.
Now, this is a total lockdown. So what are those metrics that they have put in place? What would they consider to be principal, okay, to share with Mr. President, to now help them make appropriate decision to see, okay, do we want to extend or do we want to, how do we want to do it? You get my point?
Because if you extend it, there must be a very clear plan in ensuring that this doesn't
Yes.
continue to disrupt distributive plans for people and, of course, services. To
be fair, while there's a lockdown, every issue of food and critical resources is available. Petrol stations are working.
Yeah.
Yes or no? The supermarkets are working.
Yeah.
You get my point? Those involved in food and beverage or food, they are also working. People doing water, this business, they are all working. You get the point? So those are strategic moves. But what is the feedback from all of these players that they've got and the people they've sent out? What is the feedback to them? What are our citizens? So these are the feedbacks that you share with Mr. President, not painting. Yesterday I told you about telling the real story, not lying.
Yeah.
Just tell the true story so that people know how to help you. You get the point?
Yeah.
Now, what is the plan for rollback? What is the plan to prepare people? Okay, we want to go back to normal. Why should we go back to normal? Do we have a plan to come back to normal? Across each of the economic theme, or across each of the governance theme.
Yeah.
Monetary, fiscal. You get my point? Yeah. So when you look at all the dimensions of governance, so they should be telling the president, in my view, these are the real situation. You get my point? As the case may be. For example, part of what I expect them to tell the president is, this is the total number of tests we are doing. We're having this total number of calls per state. You get my point? Yeah. We are not, this is what we have done. This is why we are doing it. Yeah. You get my point? So the president has a true picture
of what's happening.
A true picture of what's happening. A true picture of what's happening. If the palliatives or the interventions they are using to support our citizens that are vulnerable, let them ramp it up. We need to ramp up this by pam, pam, pam. We need to ramp up this by pam, pam, pam. So what do we need to do? Where are the logistics we need to put in place? If they need more expertise, Mr. President, we will need to go beyond our current team to look for experts to support us. And those are budget issues. Okay? Those are budget issues.
The budgets too. And then finally for businesses?
The same thing. It doesn't change. Because the same way you manage business is the same way. Because for businesses too, it's the same thing. Okay, if we're going to come back, how are we going to come back? We discussed this yesterday. Yeah. You know? So if we're going to come back, how are we going to come back? You get the point. Yeah. This is time to do what is needed.
And so in wrapping up, what are your reflections for today?
The last statement I made, what is needed? Expediency. There's a phrase or there's a verse in the Christian Bible that talks about, it says, everything, the guy who wrote that letter, he said, everything is lawful unto me, but I'll only do what is what? Expedient. So our leaders must do what is expedient. There is a place for the law. There's a place for expediency, especially when in a crisis situation as we find ourselves. So for you also as an individual, what are those things that are expedient that you are doing now to prepare you and I, okay, for normalcy? To prepare you and I for normalcy. The key thing is stay at home. That's an expedient instruction for every one of us. Stay at home. Maintain social distancing. No matter how pressed you and I are. So it behoves on us to respond to that. The next word is fortitude. What's fortitude? Courage. You need courage and command to stay through. So for every decision that is inconveniencing, you and I need fortitude. And the demonstration of fortitude comes in the acts that people around you, your employer, the government does to help you maintain courage. Through what? The kinds of communication that is sent forth. the kind of information that is shared with us. The kind of information that is shared with us.
Yeah.
So I think those two words captures the summary of our conversation today. Let's do what is expedient and let's maintain fortitude, courage to stay through, to hold us through this season.
Especially for those that have been bereaved this period.
Oh,
that fortitude
yes.
is very important.
Like the people that have lost victims, people who are victims or relatives of victims as a result of COVID.
Yeah.
Please, you have all of our well wishes from WebTV.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. John Wese. Always nice interacting with you.
Thank you.
Hope to see
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
On our session. Yeah. That will be all for this edition of the WebTV Coronanomics Discuss. You can visit our website www.proshareng.com to get further updates from our market and economic reports. We'd also like you to join us by 4 p.m. for our webinar between Afex Commodities Exchange and ProShare. It's focusing on COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the commodities market. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a lovely day and stay safe.